Hi, this is Mrs. Chang. I've looked over your assignment from Toronto Islands, and I'm just giving you a quick review of some things that I saw that were good and some areas that students can improve their mark before I finalize the mark for this activity. So, things that were done well, most students did the questions well. If you have a comment that I left behind, it means that there's probably a mistake and I'm giving you a chance to go fix it. So please do read my comments carefully. A reminder that if you forgot to do this part where you make a definition of two words you didn't know from the article, please go back to our other videos and remember how to do that, where you highlight the word that you don't know, click on the comment button and write in your definition. You can also use the dictionary feature here to do that, okay? It's easy, 2 marks, and that would be a friendly reminder if I left you a comment. The part I want to talk about the most is the question making. Creating questions in this course is really important because it leads us to think about where do we want to take our investigation next? What matters to you and what do you want to learn about? So when you do questions that are already answered in the article, that shows me either you didn't understand what you read or that you're not really applying what we're learning to anything new. So an example of a question that would be very simple might be, what are the chances that the Toronto Islands will flood this year? I'm going to repeat that. What are the chances that the Toronto Islands will flood? Well, that's not the best question because if you look at the article, it already tells us, although the chance of flooding is now 30%, okay, the people living on the islands aren't taking any chances, but it tells us that the chance of it flooding is 30%. So if I read that question, I'm like, not really critically thinking. They're not showing me that they're making any new connections. What was a really good question was Aliyah's question. Hi, Aliyah, shout out. She asked not only what Toronto could do in terms of preventing flooding on the Toronto side, which was a good question, but also she said, why can't we just create floating houses, like houses that float on the water? And I was like, whoa, that's kind of a cool idea. And then I got really curious, so I went and I researched it, and I saw that actually, guess what? That exists in Toronto. Like, I was blown away. There are actually floating houses in Toronto. So Aliyah's question raised a really interesting investigation. So now when she does an assignment later on in this course, that will be one of the options, and it's kind of an interesting one to explore. And that's because she created a really good question. So when I mark these questions in the course, I look at the number of questions you do. So in other words, did I do all of the question tasks throughout the course? Okay, and if you always do your work or you try, you're going to get a 7.5 or a 10 out of 10. Okay? If you add extra questions or do any optional assignments, that's usually what gets you the 10. Then there's the quality of the question. And what that means is your question showing me critical thinking, or is it really simple? Like I said, if the answer's already in the article or the visual, then it's not really you creating a question because the answer's there. What really gets you marks is questions that show that you're making connections outside of the course, or that they're really interesting questions. Think about what's a question that's going to give Mrs. Chang something that I want to know about so she can make the next lesson interesting, right? If you keep giving me questions that you don't even care about yourself, well, then you're going to get a really boring course, right? So questions that are interesting, that make connections, they're the ones that are going to get higher marks. And at the end of the course, I'm going to look at all of the question activities that we did. And how do I do that? I have a spreadsheet with your names. They're not here right now for confidentiality and privacy, but you have your name and it'll tell me, did you do all of the questions? Yes, some, none. And then here the quality of the question. So here I'll put level 1, 2, or 3, or 4, depending on it. And at the end of the course, I'm going to look at this, and that's going to be a mark, not the only mark, of course, but one of the marks that we get is for creating questions, and that's how I'll be deciding that final mark, okay? So all of the little tasks that you're doing, it's not a waste of your time. You're helping me know where to take our next lesson. You're giving me ideas on what to talk about, and you're learning how to create good questions, which leads to good research. So what you're going to do today is go back, look at the assignment that I gave you. You're going to make any corrections that I asked, and students who are ready to move forward, okay, you're going to be given another task, and this is to get ready for our next task, which is using geotechnology. So today I'm giving you a practice exercise to do. Please watch that video and try it out. And I think you're going to enjoy it because we're moving away from just reading and writing, and we're now moving into how do we put our information into visuals and maps to make it more interesting. Thanks a lot for listening.